Guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to take a look at the final member of the newest wave of wild packs from Mattel for the Jurassic World Dino Escape line, and this is the Mononykus. I believe this is only the second time this species has had a release, if I can recall correctly, so that's pretty cool to finally have another variant. And on top of another variant, I think this one looks really nice here through the packaging. Of course, we can never truly tell until we get it out, but it definitely looks like it might potentially be even nicer than the first one. And then if we take a look here at the back of the package, you can see some of the other wild packs that are in this wave, as we have the Rhamphorhynchus, Stringosaurus, and Velociraptor as well, and we have reviewed all of those already. So let's go ahead, pop this open, and take a look at it. And here is our Mononykus out of the packaging. And straight away, I must stress how excited I am about this one, because of course the coloration actually does look really, really good. I love the color of this particular release, but we also have paint out there on the tail, which is super awesome, and again just makes a world of difference as far as the appeal factor and just how nice the figures overall look. It's just such a drastic difference, honestly. The fact that Mattel tends to skip out on paint on the tail so often is such a travesty when you can see how nice it would look with the actual paint out there on the tail. Now imagine if they would release them with painted nails. It would just be incredible, my friends, incredible. Well, kind of. But regardless, this Mononykus looks to be super nice looking, probably, in my opinion, better than the last one. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look right now. So of course we have reviewed this figure in the past. We reviewed the initial one, so we don't need to go over the sculpt. The sculpt itself seems to be exactly the same as the initial release. What we really need to look at is anything that differentiates this one from the original release, and that would be the coloration. So for the face of our Mononykus, we have a really nice reddish coloration for the majority of the face, and then we have kind of like a light blue that just sort of stripes and spots through under the eye, through the palate area, and back past the ear, moving into the neck, and it looks really nice. I love the way those colors play off of each other. Definitely very appealing to the eye. We also have a yellow eye, and the eye itself has a black pupil, which is a gigantic plus as far as this figure goes. Don't understand why Mattel can't do that with all of their figures, but it has a really nice gloss coat on it also to make that eye look very nice and lifelike. As we move down here to the lower jaw, you can see the lower jaw is painted with a nice light gray, which looks pretty nice as well. Definitely some very nice and visually appealing colors chosen for the head of this Mononykus moving down into the neck. You can see that coloration does end pretty abruptly in the neck region, as per usual when it comes to this wave of wild packs. It seems like they've all done that throughout the entire course of this line, if they even make it that far. But you can also see the teeth are painted with kind of like an off-white, which is really nice to see, especially on a figure like this that has the mouth closed. It is nice to see that the paint actually is applied to the teeth, because that doesn't always happen. As you move back into the neck region, you can see that red continues, but we start to pick up on some of the brown here of the body of the Mononykus, and as we continue down the course of the figure, we get to a point here where the red just kind of splotches and runs down the side of the dinosaur. You can see a little area of the brown that creeps through up here on the top, but for the most part, it's just the majority of the body is a brown, a nice light brown, and we have this red that kind of stripes and splotches down all over the place, almost like leaking paint running down a wall is the way that this sort of appears. And I definitely think it looks nice, really nice tones of color chosen for it, almost giving it kind of like a bright male type of an appearance. And then as we move out into the tail, you can see that red coloration then stops right before we reach the tail, and then we get some dark brown picking up as we lead out further into the tail. And on top of that nice dark brown, we have some really nice kind of white stripes, or like light gray stripes out here on the tail. I love that. So bird-like, so flashy as far as the coloration goes out here on the tail. And again, it just makes such a huge difference as far as the appeal factor and how visually appealing the dinosaur looks when you add that paint out there onto the tail, especially, again, in an area where we have feathers. I love the fact that it looks so bird-like as far as those stripes running along the top of the tail. And the underside of the tail is also that brownish coloration, so we didn't just get that on the top, we do have that on the underside. As we move along there, first of all, there's the Jurassic Facts app code, if you would like to add this to your collection. But as we move along, you can see that there is no other coloration here on the underside. The gray stops here, the brown picks up on the tail. We don't have anything really on the underside except for maybe like some speckles, which is weird because it looks like we have like two kind of light off-white speckles here on the underside, almost in the exact same spot opposite of each other. But we also have a speckling here with like a dark black kind of speckling. Every so often I see it. It's not super abundant like you see on many Mattel figures, but it's definitely there. But aside from that, there's really not any other coloration to the Mononykus. Regardless, though, it is a very nice, very visually appealing color scheme for our figure, and I honestly love this Mononykus probably more than the original release. As far as articulation on our Mononykus goes, it's the usual. We have the neck articulation, same articulation as the previous one. If you have the previous one, you'll already know. We also have articulation in the arms, we have articulation in the legs, and we have a swivel tail. No other articulation other than that, but that's pretty good for a figure so cheap, being a wild pack. As far as a size goes, for a length, if the head is up in this position, of course we can make it a little longer by putting the head out, but we don't really need to do that because this is a fairly comfortable position, I think, for the dinosaur. You are looking at about the 6-inch range, or around 15, maybe 15.5 centimeters. And then for a height, when it's again got its head up in this position, you were looking at just shy of 3 3/4 inches, or around 9.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, here are our usual review comparison suspects with Mr. Peppa T-Rex, the Attack Pack, Golovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our newest Wild Pack Mononykus, and you can definitely see that it sports the exact same size as the previous release and pretty much the same size as the usual Wild Pack figure goes when it comes to a smaller dinosaur species like this. So hopefully these figures in comparison will help to show you the size if you don't have the previous release, but if you do have the previous release, just remember that it is the exact same size, just a brand new paint application. And then for another comparison, here is the initial release of the Mononykus with this newest Mononykus. Now looking at the two together, I still think that the one here on the right, the newest one, has a more male-like appearance, in my opinion, with the reddish tones, but at the same time, it's kind of tough to tell because the other one kind of has a bit of a male-like appearance, so with the brownish coloration of the one here on the right, maybe that one's more of a female. I don't really know, honestly. It's tough to tell. You could just, I guess, make your own decision on that, but they both look great, I think, and even with the brownish tone of color for the one on the right, I still think it makes a pretty nice-looking male version of the Mononykus, and another beautiful release from the Mattel line. So this newest Wild Pack Mononykus figure from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line is a really nice release yet again. I love the fact that there is a Mononykus in the line in general, because that is a species, of course, that was prior to this, never released in the Jurassic line, and honestly, I don't know of any line of figures, any company that has really produced a Mononykus, so in general, it's really super awesome for Mattel to have one out. But now we have two versions, and the newest version might be even better than the previous version, if you ask me, because the coloration is really nice and natural on this one, and I love the coloration out there on the tail. I think the color on the tail is one of the things that is really drawing me into this one, and really making me like it so much. The stripes along the top with the darker brown coloration and the lighter stripes, they just look so good, so bird-like, and again, just something that gives the dinosaur a really nice element of flashiness, but in a nice, realistic, and natural way. And the reddish tones of color throughout the course of the body also look really good. The teeth being painted pretty nicely is just kind of the icing on the cake as far as the paintwork goes of this figure, because the mouth being closed, sometimes Mattel tends to skip out on paintwork of the teeth when the mouth is closed like that, but they haven't on this Mononykus, and it really looks good, as well as the fact that we have a black pupil also helps this figure look even better than it usually would when it comes to a Mattel release. Of course, the sculpt is fantastic. It was the first time around. It is this time. When it comes to a Mattel sculpt, you always get a very highly detailed sculpt. You also always get, larger feet than you probably should, and a little bit off proportions. But this one doesn't look so bad. I think obviously the feet are larger than they should be or could be, but even with that being the case, I still think it looks great, and for the most part, the proportion issues don't bother me when it comes to pretty much any of the Mattel figures at this point. On top of that, you have some fun articulation, as you usually do when it comes to the Mattel Jurassic World figures, and all of that combined is a very nice recipe for success when it comes to this beautiful-looking Mononykus. This set of Wild Packs, this newest wave of Wild Packs, might be one of my favorites to have come along in a long time, because every figure I felt was really beautiful, very nice, and very visually appealing, so a huge plus as far as that goes, and kudos to Mattel for giving us some really nice looking figures with this newest wave of wild packs, even though, of course, we don't always get exactly what we want, like paint on the nails and stuff, and sometimes paint out onto the tail. This wave, in my opinion, was a little bit nicer, I think, than some of the others of the past, and especially with some figures having paint out on the tail, like this Mononykus and the Dimorphodon and stuff. So really nice wave of wild packs. Make sure if you are interested in these, you head to your local Walmart or Target and try to pick some of these up. I also heard that they are appearing at Best Buy now as well, so that's always an option. Actually, I believe Macy's might have them too, so they're kind of like all over the place at this point. So if you are interested in these, make sure you head out, try to find some of them in the wild, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.